What's up, guys and gals? Red Icing here with a little more speculation for Persona 5. Today's video will be short, as the milking things dry thing I mentioned in a previous video is starting to really take effect. Be sure to stay after the theory to see how this series will change and how your input can be featured. Also, remember that this is all speculation and no confirmation, as I am sure you know that info is hard to find for this game. So all theories are based off of old clues from trailers, wikis, and articles. Alright, intro is done. Let's get into today's subject. Today's theory was suggested by commenter Marcus Mosley, and it involves the backstories of a few characters. Thanks, Marcus, for the input. We already know a relative amount about the backstories of Yusuke and Anne when compared to the rest of the known party members, so today we will just focus on the main character, Ryuji, and Morgana. So with that said, let's start off with the main character and move our way forward. It's not surprising that the main character in this game is an enigma to us. Both Persona 3 and 4 gave you a main character that was basically a blank slate, and the player, or the guide on GameFAQs, chose the actions of the character moving forward. Yes, there were some details that came up about the characters before the start of the game, dead parents or had friends in a previous city, but most of that was just glossed over to make the player focus on the future within the game. When it comes to Persona 5, Atlus may be taking a different route. I'm not going to say that they'll give the MC a complete backstory, but with some extenuating circumstances in the trailer depicting that this new MC had an eventful past, it's hard to say what they will do. While on the subway, the MC does exhibit the personality-free blank face with some emotion here and there, like both P3 and P4's main characters. But one clue that Marcus pointed out that doesn't make sense takes a huge role in this argument. The main character seems to be very agile, even though there isn't any evidence pointing to how he became that way. While it would be easier to say that he had a natural agility, or the powers granted to him at the start of the game also included this newfound athleticism. Nothing is ever so simple when it comes to Atlus. There are a few theories out there, and a simple list will do. Number 1, he had hobbies that made him agile, like free running or gymnastics, or that he was just a member of a track team. Number 2, as stated earlier, the powers granted to him at the start of the game also included some sort of boost to his athleticism, without factoring in his new ability to move really quickly. Number 3, and this is a doozy, that he was a thief before the start of the game. Thieves, or at least good thieves, are amazingly nimble and can execute maneuvers average people can't. This could also point out why he had to move to a new city as he was forced to. Maybe he messed with the wrong people, or his parents wanted to get him away from some bad influences. It could also explain the Velvet Room, as the main character had some small evil in him that Igor took into account, creating the jail cell around him. Whatever the case, this does not seem equivocal to the blank slate MCs we have seen in the past, and there must be some sort of explanation for it. Getting that confusing part out of the way, let's move on to Morgana. While Morgana is another enigma entirely, what's most confusing is her backstory. According to the Persona 5 wiki, even Morgana is confused about her own origin. All we know is that at some point she meets the main character and then transforms in a dungeon to her new form. There are some theories out there about how Morgana and the main character met, and again, another list will do. The first is that she was just a household pet of the main character before the game. It's simple, almost too simple. The second is that Morgana was just a stray cat that grew attached to the MC after he arrived in the new city. Maybe he found her after he got off the train, or found her outside of his residence. Not surprising, as stray cats were featured in previous games. This seems more likely than the first one in my own mind, but without proof I can't confirm it. The third one is that she followed both Ryuji and the MC into the first dungeon and transformed thanks to the distorted reality. This one is not likely to happen, as cats usually have a sixth sense about danger, and things seem to be ominous around that dungeon to allow for something like this. The last theory is that she is an inhabitant of the other world. When Ryuji and the main character walked into the dungeon for the first time, she took an immediate interest in them. But after they left the dungeon, she took on the form of an ordinary house cat to keep her identity a secret. Since she is the first navigator, this theory would make sense as Morgana would have had experience with the other world. However, this theory seems too close to Teddy's backstory from Persona 4. So whatever the case may be, Morgana is a mystery. And the reason her origin hasn't been spelled out yet is that she is very important later in the game. If her origin was known right now, it could spoil if she was evil, because honestly, cats are a-holes, or that she has a third form. And now we move on to the last character, Ryuji. Thing is, we even have less info about him. Ryuji seems to be a punk rock version of Yosuke, and he has some internal issues involving bitterness towards adults and authority. Both Marcus and I have our own theories about this. Marcus's theory has some merit to it. His theory is that Ryuji actually comes from a wealthy family, and at one point he turns from a normal guy into a delinquent. Something must have happened to cause this, as money usually keeps you happy, but his persona details something more. Captain Kidd was rich, and he originally followed the system until one day where he abandoned his leadership and caused trouble to spite just about everyone except his crew. Maybe he's being a delinquent for the hell of it, but that seems too standard for a Persona game. Marcus suggests that he noticed the inequality in his society and didn't want to become part of the source. So he cast off his previous image to take on a more realistic role, at least in his mind. It's plausible, but again, without confirmation, we cannot say for sure this is the case. The theory that came to my mind was a little bit different. Rather than come from a rich family, his family lost a lot, and he is still bitter about it. Bitterness and loss sort of go together in these situations. At one point, his family was upper middle class, but something happened to make them lose all of it and join the lower class. Something along the lines of his parents losing their jobs and or image, and being forced into something similar to poverty, at least in their minds. Seeing his life break before him, he began to blame others for his situation, as this type of delinquent does. He blames the adults who took away his old life, such as corporate types, and maybe even his own parents. Whatever the case may be, he seems to be harboring some sort of ill will caused by loss. Whether it's a loss of innocence or an old life, only time will tell. And hell, maybe none of this is true. Well, that's the end of the theories, but not the video. If you have any sources proving something I said wrong, feel free to leave a comment and I'll put it in a correction video at the end of the series. But wait, there's more to this video. As not enough info is currently released about the game, I am getting dangerously close to having my foot forever lodged in my mouth. So until new info is released, I want to involve the community a little more than I have in the past. The way this will work is in next week's episode you can add your questions to the comment section and I will analyze and consider possibilities for the answer. There will be humble opinions placed in, but I will look at and state both sides if it is an argument. So think of some of the questions you want answered and next week post them in the comments and I'll choose 2 or 3 of them and make a video and state your name before I state the possibilities. Next week's video will be about an argument that has been confusing me and some others for a little while. Again, if you have theories or contradictions of your own, feel free to comment about them. If you want my input, put red at the start of your comment. Thanks for watching this video, and I can't think of a closer, so goodbye.